Autumn is here, and it would not be autumnal cards if I did not make a background using distress inks. And this time I had specific colors in mind. I wanted to use brown, red, purple, orange and yellow. Yes, 5 colors, but you don't need to use them all, and you can also mix and match. And I decided not only to create a background using distress inks, but also watercolors. This is something I wanted to do for a while to show you an alternative if you don't have such inks. So let's get started. The distress inks I picked are Seedless Preserves for the purple, Aged Mahogany for the red, Ground Espresso for the brown, Wild Honey for the yellow, and Spiced Marmalade for the orange. This is a really good group of inks. As I said, you don't need them all. You can just pick 2 and you will get a very pretty color combination. And this is the order in which I will be using the inks, starting with the Ground Espresso. Originally, after the brown, I planned to use the red, Aged Mahogany, and after that the purple and orange. But the purple and orange created brown, which I did not want. So I swapped it, and after the Ground Espresso, I used Seedless Preserves and then the Aged Mahogany. While I did apply additional layers, but that was mainly for blending purposes, blending the colors together, these inks were quite juicy and I got a very saturated colors after the first application. So this time I did not really need to go back and add additional layers, which most of the time I need to do. After I applied the Aged Mahogany, I used the Spiced Marmalade, and after that I used the ink Wild Honey. As I said, you don't need all these colors, you can mix and match and create all kinds of color combinations in different order. Alright, the background is done. This is exactly what I had in mind. Another idea I wanted to do for a while is to create a watercolor background similar to the distress ink background. So if you don't have such inks, you can still recreate something similar. I picked my Koretake Gonzai Tambi watercolors, mainly because it is my biggest palette with so many different colors, so I knew I will not need to do too much mixing. And also I wanted to test something. These are the colors I picked. Number 47, which is Raw Umber Deep, number 37, which is Purple, number 46, which is Burnt Sienna, and that one I mixed with the number 30, which is Cadmium Red. Then I used the number 33, Cadmium Orange, and number 43, which is Cadmium Yellow. And I just tried to recreate the same color combo in the same order. I used the same cardstock as on the distress ink background, which is Canson XL. This is my preferred cardstock for distress ink backgrounds, but for watercolors it's not the best, especially for smooth backgrounds like these. Personally, I don't mind and I'm not that bothered, and it's going to be partially covered anyway. I did not tape the cardstock here because I wanted it to be the same size as the distress ink piece and I did not want to have a white border. However, I did place a piece of washi at the back. The problem was it did not hold, and obviously, as you will see, the cardstock started curling. It was annoying but funny at the same time. So I finished the background despite it was curling. Then I used my heat tool and dried the panel as I wanted to do a second coat to test something. I pretty much kinda knew this. I love Gonzai Tambi watercolors, they are so vibrant. But last year I saw a bunch of videos about these watercolors, and the major problem with these watercolors is that they lift. As you see me applying the watercolors here, you can see some white streaks. I always had this issue and did not know why. Don't get me wrong, I love these paints. I bought them 10 years ago, but I bought them mainly because everyone was using them and also because the packaging was pretty. I did not do any research. So I didn't know that the Japanese Gansai watercolors are not the same as Western watercolors. I still love them. I don't remember any problems when coloring, but for backgrounds like these, or if you are starting and learning watercolor, I would not recommend them. So after I finished this background, I made another one with the Winsor & Newton Cotman watercolors just to see the difference. First of all, I used painter's tape on the back, which was much stronger, and the cardstock did not warp this time. And the application on the second layer was much better, the paint was not lifting. I still had some streaks, but this is probably the problem of the paper. The downside of these watercolors and this background is that it's not as vibrant as the one I painted with the Koretake Gonzai Tambi. It's not a flaw, sometimes it's good to have a little bit subtle colors, but in this case I wanted the background to be very vibrant. Here are both panels side by side. The one painted with the Gonzai Tambi has more streaks, but as I said, it's more vibrant. And overall that's what I wanted, and that's why I picked it for my final card, since I'm going to be covering it anyway. For the card, I wanted to create a wreath. I have 2 dies with leaves and that's it. I thought I will use this eucalyptus die and just cut it in half so I can create a circle, but the branches were too straight and I would not be able to create a circle, so I used my second die instead. I think the leaves supposed to be representing the dragon tree. I cut a bunch of them, I think about 10. I needed more as I was going to cut them even shorter, and some I cut even shorter than this, what I'm showing you right now. There are dies that you can buy that are made to be used on a wreath, but if you don't have it, you can just improvise. I used a circle die to draw a circle just as a guide. I used this die last year on a wreath and I just eyeballed it, and it was very visible that it was not in the shape of a circle. I decided to glue the branches. This time I didn't have the patience to use tiny pieces of double-sided tape. What I would advise is not to glue the first branch all the way. Just use the glue at the bottom so it's easier to tuck in the last branch. Even though I was using glue, this took me quite a while, so I will speed this up even more and play a bit of music, and I will be back to finish the card. Alright, the wreath is adhered. For the greeting, I used this die cut that says thanks. I die cut it 3 times and adhered it on top of each other so it has a little bit of dimension, and then I adhered it in the middle of the wreath. Once it was dry, I adhered the whole panel on top of a white card base. It matches the white of the wreath perfectly. Here is the finished card in more close-up. I wasn't sure if it will look good since I used glue instead of a foam tape, but I love it. Using a foam tape would take too long, and I had another card to make. And here it is. Here is the one with the watercolor background. As I said, I used the one I painted with the Gonzai watercolors as it was more vibrant, and I also used gold glitter cardstock for some leaves just to add some sparkle. And for the greeting, I used Hello World die, and I also die cut 3 pieces that I glued together. For the backgrounds, I do prefer the distress inks, but if you don't have them, watercolors are great as well. If you would like to see another distress ink background for autumn, check out this video. I used pretty much the same inks, but I used an embossing folder and perfect pearls. That's all for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video very soon.